Well, hello and welcome to story time. We only have 2 more stories in the park today and then next week's, and then we are done for the summer. But we're gonna do stories on the TV and on video for the fall and winter too, so you'll have to just look for those once we get them going. Today's theme is mummies. So not like spooky, scary mummies, although we do have some fun mummy stories like that, but like the mummies from Egypt. And in your take and make bags for August, there is a activity page on how to make mummy pizza. So you'll have to give it a try. You're gonna need mom and dad's or grown-ups help for making it because you have to put it in the oven for a little bit. But they are super yummy and really fun to make, and you can make it look like any kind of mummy that you want when you get it all decorated with your pizza toppings. And make sure you get those reading logs turned in by August 22nd. I'll be doing the prize drawings the following week after August 22nd. We have lots of prize drawings, and everyone gets a participation prize once you get your logs turned in. So get those logs in so that way you can get a prize. Our first book is Where's My Mummy? By Carolyn Crimmy. On a deep dark night in a deep dark place, little baby Mummy did not want to go to bed. Just one more game of hide and shriek, he pleaded to Big Mama Mummy. Count your bandages while I hide. Little baby Mummy ran and hid and waited until... Mama Mummy, where are you? He looked over the graves and he looked over tombs, but Big Mama Mummy was nowhere to be found. So he troped and he trumped and he trumped to the deep dark woods, the spookery woods, to look for Big Mama Mummy. He stopped and he listened. Clank, clink, clank. Woo, woo, woo. Clink, clink, clue. Mama Mummy, is that you? But out of the woods clanked Bones. You're not my mummy. Bones was brushing his clicky-clacky teeth. Little baby Mummy, go to bed, he said. There are creatures that bite in the deep dark night. Then he gargled with goo. I'm not scared. Little baby Mummy trumped and trumped and trumped to the deep dark swamp, the slithery swamp, to look for Big Mama Mummy. He stopped and he listened. Glug, 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 glop, glug, glug, glue. Mama Mummy, is that you? But out of the swamp slid Glob. You're not my mummy. Glob shook his wiggly wobbly head. Little baby Mummy, go back to bed, he said. There are creatures that creep in the deep dark night. And he washed the gunk off his ooey gooey face. I'm not scared, little baby Mummy tromped, tromped, tromped to the deep dark cave, the shivery cave, to look for Big Mama Mummy. He stopped and he listened. Flap, flip, flap, whap, whap, whoo, flap, flip, flew. Mama Mummy, is that you? But out of the cave whooshed Drek. You're not my mummy. Drek flapped his floppy flippy wings. Little baby Mummy, go to bed, he said. There are creatures that swoop in the deep dark night. Then he scrubbed his long pointy ears. I'm not scared. Little baby Mummy plunked down under a creaky squeaky tree. Mama Mummy, where are you? He stopped and he listened. Rustle, rustle, scritch, scratch, scritch, rustle, rustle, rustle. Mama Mummy, are you there? But out of the tree popped a mouse. Help, Mama Mummy, I'm scared. I'm here, cried Big Mama Mummy. Little baby Mummy and Big Mama Mummy trumped back home, where they brushed and combed and gargled and scrubbed. Then Big Mama Mummy wrapped little baby Mummy up tight, and he slept and he snored for the rest of the night. Wee, 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 snore, 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 wee, wee, snore. And that's the end of that one. And the next story is a Cinderella retelling. So if you know the Disney story of Cinderella, you might be able to see how this one relates. So this is the Egyptian Cinderella by Shirley Clemo. Long ago, in the land of Egypt, where the green Nile River widens to meet the blue sea, there lived a maiden called Rhodopis. When she was still a small child, Rhodopis had been stolen by pirates. She was snatched from her home in Greece, taken across the sea to Egypt, and there sold as a slave. Like the Egyptian servant girls, Rhodopis went to the water's edge each day to wash clothes or to gather the reeds that grew along the riverbank. But Rhodopis looked different from the Egyptian girls. Their eyes were brown and hers were green. Their hair hung straight to their shoulders, while the breeze blew hers into tangles. Their skin glowed like copper, but her pale skin burned red beneath the sun. That was how she got her name, for Rhodopis meant rosy-cheeked in Greek. Rosy Rhodopis, scoffed the servant girls, hissing her name between their teeth. Rhodopis pretended not to hear, but she blushed rosier than ever. Although her master was kind, he was old and liked to doze beneath a fig tree. He seldom heard the servant girls tease Rhodopis. He never saw them ordering her about. Hurry, Rhodopis, they would shout at her. The geese are in the garden eating up the onions. Mend my robe. I'm hungry, Rhodopis. Bake the bread. Rhodopis always hurried to do their bidding, for the Egyptian girls were household servants and she was only a slave. Rhodopis found friends among the animals instead. Birds ate crumbs from her hands. She coaxed a monkey to sit up on her shoulder and charmed a hippopotamus with her songs. It would raise its huge head from the muddy water and prick its small ears to listen. Sometimes, when her chores were done and the day had cooled, Rhodopis would dance for her animal companions. She twirled so lightly her tiny bare feet scarcely touched the ground. One evening, her master awakened to see her dance. "No goddess is more nimble," he called out. "Such a gift deserves a reward." He tugged his chin and whiskers, thinking, and then declared, "You shall go barefoot no longer." Her master ordered a pair of dainty slippers made, especially for Rhodopis. The soles were of real leather, and the toes were gilded with rose-red gold. Now when Rhodopis danced, her feet sparkled like fireflies. The rose-red slippers set Rhodopis more apart than ever. The Egyptian servant girls were jealous, for they were clumsy sandals woven from papyrus. Out of spite, they found new tasks for her to do, keeping Rhodopis so busy she was too tired to dance at night. One evening, Kippa, who was the chief among the servant girls, announced, "Tomorrow we sail for Memphis to see the Pharaoh. His Majesty is going to hold court for all his subjects. There will be musicians and dancing," said another servant girl, eyeing the rose-red slippers. "There will be feasting," added a third. "Poor Rhodopis, you must stay behind," Kippa jeered. "You have linen to wash and grain to grind and the garden to weed." The next morning, just as Ra, the sun, was climbing into the sky, Rhodopis followed the servant girls to the riverbank. Kippa wore a necklace of blue beads. Bracelets jingled on the wrists of the second, and the third had tied a many-colored sash about her waist. Although Rhodopis wore a plain tunic, on her feet were the rose-red slippers. "Perhaps they will let me come along to see the Pharaoh after all," she thought. But the three servant girls pulled the raft around the river bend without giving Rhodopis a backwards glance. Rhodopis sighed and turned to the basket piled high with dirty clothes. Wash the linen, weed the garden, grind the grain. She slapped the wooden paddle against the cloth in time to her song. The hippopotamus, tired of so dull a tune, pushed out of the reeds and splashed onto the river. "Shame!" cried Rhodopis, shaking her paddle. "You splattered mud on my beautiful slippers." She polished the shoes on the hem of her tunic until the rose gold glittered in the sun. Then she carefully put them on the bank behind her. "Wash the linen, weed the garden," Rhodopis began again. Then suddenly a shadow fell on the water. Rhodopis jumped up. A great falcon, the symbol of the god Horus, circled the sky with wings spread so wide they blotted out the sun. "Greetings to you, proud Horus," Rhodopis murmured. She bowed her head and felt a rush of air on the back of her neck. When Rhodopis dared to lift her eyes, she saw the falcon soar away. Dangling from his talons was one of her beautiful slippers. "Stop," she pleaded, "come back." But the bird did not heed her. He flew toward the sun until there was no more than a dark speck against the gold. Rhodopis bit her tongue. One shoe was worse than none at all. Now she'd have to dance like a stork, hopping about on one foot, and even the monkey would laugh. Rhodopis tucked the other slipper into her tunic and returned to her laundry, salting the river with her tears. After Rhodopis had lost sight of the falcon, the mighty bird followed the course of the Nile to the city of Memphis, to the square where the pharaoh was holding court, where the falcon watched and waited. The pharaoh's name was Amasis. On his head he wore the red and white crown of the two Egypts. The double crown was heavy and pinched his ears. He preferred driving his chariot fast as the wind to sitting on the throne. Amasis yawned. At that very moment, the falcon dropped the rose-red slipper into his lap. The slipper was so bright that Amasis thought it was a scrap of the sun. Then he saw the falcon wheeling overhead. "The god Horus sends me a sign," exclaimed the pharaoh. He picked up the rose-red slipper. "Every maiden in Egypt must try this shoe on. She whose foot it fits shall be my queen. That is the will of the gods." Amasis dismissed the court, called for his chariot, and began his search at once. When the Egyptian servant girls arrived in Memphis, they found the throne empty and the streets deserted. They were so angry on their return that seeing Rhodopis without her rose-red slipper did not please them. "Slaves are better off barefoot," snapped Kippa. The pharaoh journeyed to the distant cities. He tracked the desert where pyramids towered over the sand, and he climbed the steep cliffs where falcons nest. The rose-red slipper was always in his hand wherever he went. Women and girls, rich or poor, flocked to try on the slipper, but none of them could fit into such a small shoe. The longer Amasis searched, the more determined he became to marry the maiden who lost the tiny slipper. He summoned the royal barge and vowed to visit every landing along the Nile. The barge was hung with sails of silk. Trumpets blared as the oarmen rowed to the beat of gongs. The din was so dreadful that when the barge rounded the bend in the river, Rhodopis fled in alarm. But the servant girls ran to the water's edge. "Now we shall see the pharaoh," cried Kippa. Amasis held up the rose-red slipper. "Whoever can wear the shoe shall be my queen." The servant girls knew at once, and knew its owner too. Yet they clapped their hands over their mouths and said nothing. If one of them could wear it. First Kippa, then the others tried to put on the slipper. Each crammed their foot and curled their toes and squeezed until tears ran down her cheeks. Still her heel hung over. "Enough," said Amasis wearily. He would have to set sail again had he not chanced to see Rhodopis peering through the rushes. "Come," he commanded, "you must try on the rose-red slipper." The servant girls gawked open-mouthed as the pharaoh knelt before Rhodopis. He slipped the tiny shoe on her foot with ease. Then Rhodopis pulled its mate from behind the folds of her tunic. "Behold," cried Amasis, "in all the land there is none so fit to be queen." "But Rhodopis is a slave," protested one of the servant girls. Kippa sniffed. "She's not even Egyptian." "She is the most Egyptian of all," the pharaoh declared, "for her eyes are green as the Nile, her hair feathery as papyrus, and her skin the pink of a lotus flower. The pharaoh led Rodolphus to the royal barge, and with every step her rose-red slippers winked and sparkled in the sun. And that is the end of that one. Our next story is a Skippy John Jones story. And it's Skippy John Jones in Mummy Trouble by Judy Schatzner. And when I read the part that says clap, clap, you can clap, clap your hands along with the song. Let's see if I can hold it up in the wind. Skippy John did his very best thinking outside the box. And he's twisted his mama's whiskers tighter than a Texas tornado. "Hey you, Mr. McPoo," said Mama Junebug Jones, "just what do you think you're doing?" McPoo didn't say boo, he was too busy reading. "Hey, little digger, I'm talking to you," said Mama, scooping up her boy. "A pyramid outside the litter box will never do." Then she saw his magazine. "Natural Leographic," mused Mama, "and the Curse of the Cat Mummy. Why, this will give you nightmares, boy, with an upset tummy, too. Plus a puffy tail on the grandest scale. This story is taboo." But Skippy John Jones was in no mood to listen to his mama, so he skedaddled to his room. He bounced once, he bounced twice, for a really good bounce on his big boy bed. And the third time he bounced, he said, "Oh, I'm Skippy John Jones, and I do love my mummy, but if I don't bounce, I get knots in my tummy." Then the kitty boy flipped over to the mirror for a look-see. "Holy smokito," claimed Skippy John Jones. "I know you," he said to the doggy in the mirror. "Your ears are too big for your head. Your head is too big for your body. You're not a Siamese cat." Then, using his very best Spanish accent, he added, "You are still the big Chihuahua do, the whole enchilada." And they just might like enchiladas in Egypt, thought Skippy. So the kitty boy donned his mask and cape and began to sing in a muy soft voice. "My name is Scapito Fresquito, clap, clap, and I'm off to see old Egypto, clap, clap. My chicos insist and I dare not resist the chance to go meet a mamito, clap, clap." In the meantime, his little sisters, Jezebel, Jillyboo, and Jujubee, rolled into his room with a plan of their own. But the kitty boy was already deep inside his closet on his way to ancient Egypt. And paddling down the river Nile, who should sail right past but a kooky crocodile, hunkered down on his lumpy, bumpy back, were all his old amigos, the chimichango's pack. "Adonde vas?" called out Scapito. "We're going to the undermundo," answered the Chihuahuas. "Not to the underwear!" exclaimed Scapito. "No, no, no," said the Puchitos. "You silly little beast, to the underworld, where the mamitos rest in peace." "Peas?" exclaimed Scapito. "Who wants to sleep in peas?" "We do," said the doggies, "for we hear they are to die for." "You mean they are better than the frijoles?" asked Scapito. "Sí, mucho mejor, señor," said Paquito Tito. "Vámonos," said Scapito. "What are we waiting for?" But then Don Diego, the biggest of the small ones, spoke up. "Hold your ponies, Papito. To get to the undermundo, we first have to answer the riddle of the Sphinx." "But I'm not good at riddles," said Scapito. "No problemo," said Paquito Tito. "You have a muy big brain." Then they set forth from the Rio Nile to find the Sphinx. The muchachos began to sing. "Skippy, Scapoo, Scapito, we only have one chance-a-rito to pass by the Sphinx, so don't be a jinx, just answer the riddle dum-dito." The muchachos arrived at 4 o'clock sharp, but the Sphinx had been waiting forever. Don't let the gato get your tongue, dude, said Don Diego. What cat? Where? Asked Skippito. The cat there, said the Perritos, pointing at the Sphinx. But before he could say anything, the great Sphinx spoke. Whose ears are too big for his head, and who loves to go bounce on his bed, who creeps on all fours through his own closet door straight into the land of the dead. Skippito knew the answer to the riddle, but he was so nervous he coughed up a little fur ball. You call that an answer, dude? Said Don Diego. The answer! Bellowed the Sphinx. So with his permission, the Perritos were free to pass on the tomb of the King Rootin' Tootin' Kitten Kabootin'. When they finally reached the pyramid, the doggies burst into the song and dance. Oh, say, oh, Cerise. Clap, clap, our boy had a touch of the virus. Clap, clap, he coughed up a ball, so the Sphinx made a call, and now it's inscribed on papyrus. Clap, clap. But when Skippito saw how dark it looked in the pyramid, he began to feel queasy. My tummy hurts, he groaned, and my tail is getting puffy too. But his chicos would not comfort him. They just wanted their peas. Por favor. Are you not El Skippito Frisquito, the great sword fighter? Asked Poquito Tito. Si, declared Skippito, that is me. Then do your duty, dog, commanded Don Diego. So Skippito drew in a deep breath and dove into the darkness of the musty old tomb, chanting, peas, por favor, peas, por favor, peas, por favor. He rocketed through the vault like a fur-covered comet, until smackito, Skippito hit a wall and knocked himself out cold. Soon after, 3 goddesses emerged from the shadows to prepare the kitty boy for his journey to the undermundo. First we shall salt and pepper him, said Ba, the first goddess, and sprinkle him with lucky charms, said Da, the second one. Then we wrap him and roll him and bundle him tight, said Bing, the third goddess, and blow him a kiss and say nighty-night. Then the trio rolled the wrapped cat down the ramp into the king's burial chamber. Across the room stood the 4,000-year-old sarcophagus of King Rootin' Tootin' Kitten Kabootin'. And just as they were about to deliver El Skippito Mamito, he rolled right into the feet of the old, moldy mummy. Ba-da-bing, moaned the king as he stretched out his paws. I need to rest in peace. Peas, screamed El Skippito Mamito, waking up in a flash. And quicker than you can say mummies, mumps, and measles, he grabbed 2 pawfuls of peas and hightailed it home. When the Los Chimichancos saw El Skippito Mamito come rolling out of the pyramid, they went to a real tailspin. Then all the doggies began to chant, green churritos hot, green churritos cold. The best churritos in the world are those that Skippito holds. But El Skippito Mamito was too scared to slow down, so he chucked the peas at his chicos and kept right on running. Straight into the arms of his mummy. What's the matter, Fuzzy Bug? Asked Mama Junebug Jones. Skippy John Jones looked back over his shoulder to see if the 3 spirits were still chasing him. Ba-da-ding-bing, he wailed, dropping the last of the peas. Then 3 giggling goddesses ran to the room after Skippito with their puppets and a roll of toilet paper. We're going to wrap you and roll you and bundle you tight, they sang, and check you for cooties and kiss you goodnight. That night, Skippy John Jones was bouncing on his big boy bed. No mummies in my closet, no mummies in my bed, no mummies in my bookcase, no mummies in my head. Just before he closed his eyes, the kitty boy checked his room one more time for mummies. The only one he saw was his own. I love you, Mummy, he said. I love you too, Bunny Boots, said Mama Junebug. Now go to sleep, por favor. And the next story we're going to read is We Are Sailing Down the Nile, A Journey Through Egypt, by Lori Krebs and Ann Wilson. Climb aboard the riverboat. We're sailing down the Nile. We'll visit Abu Simbel in just a little while. We see the temple just ahead. Jabari's in the lead. We stand before the statues, feeling very small indeed. Climb aboard the riverboat. We're sailing down the Nile. We'll shop at Oswin's market for just a little while. Kalila guides us to the souk. We buy some food to share. We'll picnic on the island with the others gathered there. Climb aboard the riverboat. We're sailing down the Nile. We'll reach the Valley of the Kings in just a little while. Our pharaohs once were buried here, said Abram with pride, and Tutankhamun's tomb was found with treasures packed inside. Climb aboard the riverboat. We're sailing down the Nile. We'll be at the oasis in just a little while. Zahara greets the farmers who are harvesting their crops. They'll take their fruit and vegetables to sell them in the shops. Climb aboard the riverboat. We're sailing down the Nile. We'll see the Cairo skyline in just a little while. Inside the vast museum halls, we see fantastic things. Mustapha's pies, the mummies of crocodiles and kings. Climb aboard the riverboat. We're sailing down the Nile. We'll hike to Giza's pyramids in just a little while. Jamala knows the wondrous tombs built centuries ago still rise above the city with the fabled Sphinx below. Climb down from the riverboat. We sailed along the Nile and traveled across Egypt for just a little while. The day is nearly over and the sun sets in the west. We'll dream about our journey and the places we loved best. And here is a map of their journey as they went through on the river Nile. And then it tells, in the back of the story, it tells about each of the places they stopped to visit. It tells about the history and talks about the different things that ancient Egyptians did. So you can check this one out at our library and find out more about Egyptians and what they did in ancient times. And our last story for today is Mummy Cat by Marcus Ewart. The winds hiss over the desert sand, the moon shines down on empty land, and long ago, the pharaohs hid their treasures in this pyramid. Deep within the maze of stone, a creature wakes all alone. For the first time in 100 years, he shakes off dust, he flicks his ears. From head to tail, dry strips of cloth softly rustle like a moth. A cat who moves without a breath, a mummy cat who's passed through death. And one cold night each century, he gets up and checks to see if she's come back, his loving friend, so that this lonely time can end. For she was the girl queen, Hatshepsut, and he'd been her hero, not just her pet. The boldest cat ancient Egypt had seen, the #1 cat, the cat of the queen. But now, he just feels old and small. He shuffles slowly down the hall. And all around are painted scenes of his past life with Egypt's queen. Mummy Cat purrs to see the smile of the young girl playing by the Nile. 2 boats floated, but one ship sank, clawed by the cat on the riverbank. Or this mural of a noontime nap, dreams of mice on the queen's own lap. Their couch was set beside the pool. The shade from the date trees kept them cool. Here's Hepshep sits drawing with her palette of inks, and here he is posing, a miniature sphinx. Marvelous scenes of the way things were when Mummy Cat was alive with her. But the very next picture makes Mummy Cat wail, the queen struck down by a scorpion's tail. Mummy Cat knows he's not to blame, but he couldn't save her all the same. The scorpion struck both her and him. The poison spread from limb to limb. To end to dances, games, and feasts, two small bodies wrapped by priests. The painting stopped, the cat's alone, with silence, dust, and dull gray stone. Mummy Cat slumps a little more, but up ahead there is a door. And through that door there is a room, the very center of the tomb, a chamber stuffed with lovely things, a crown, a throne, 4 golden rings, mirrors, dolls, and makeup kits, nothing that matters in the slightest bit. Nothing that matters except the queen, her face on the coffin, smiling, serene. This cold golden coffin is all he gets. Where's the girl he can never forget? Will tonight be the night she comes back? Will the coffin open even a crack? He'll wait till his friend reappears, the queen of his heart, for 3,000 years. Purr. And in the back of this story, there's some history about how special cats were to the Egyptians. And then it shows some hieroglyphic writing for the different words found throughout the book. Well, thanks for joining us today for story time. We'll see you one more time for Stories in the Park next week.